it's magical. It works on everyone and everything. It doesn't matter whether you're 8 or you're 80.
How many different procedures and technologies I am even undergoing.
We don't look at ourselves as a healer. We don't think our technology heals. We know that people heal themselves. What we're doing is kind of getting your head above water.
These days, longevity and AI, at least from my perspective, are the trends that are getting a lot of attention.
AI will be good and bad, right? But it is amazing, right? It's amazing, and we barely understand what's even going to be happening a year from now, let alone 5 years from now. So AI will play a huge part inside of the chamber.
Today on the episode, we have Brian Le Gette, CEO of Ammortal, a holistic chamber that combines various different technologies into a unified experience to help us optimize our health, live longer, and feel better. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Libo. Excited to be here.
Well, I had a chance to try your chamber, and I want to dive straight in. I'm very obsessed with all things wellness and longevity. And when I saw that you put together something like Ammortal Chamber, where you combine all different techniques together into one very unified and what I would call holistic experience. Later on, I realized that you used the word holistic as well in your description of the product. So I think it fits. But let's start with the basics. How did you get to basically being involved with something like Ammortal Chamber?
I've been personally kind of in the space, just like you, personally interested. My wife and I, friends, looking at what the latest stuff is, using various technologies. Even on I'll call what we do, a lot of it is on the physics side of the body. But even on the chemistry side or the biological side, paying attention to what we eat, food, and what we absorb, right? What we listen to and think about. So everything from the conscious mind to the physical body and the interplay between all those things. Hopefully, by paying attention to all those things, we can be, in a more kind of joy-filled moment, more on path, more feeling like we're doing the things we came here to do. And so, because of all that, and then I was in an entrepreneur group called Maverick here in the U.S. that has it's a bunch of different entrepreneurs, 100+ entrepreneurs, and we'd get together and we would have fun in various areas around the world. We would also help local entrepreneurs, and then we would help each other. And I roomed with what then became my business partner in that group who I'd known, and we just began speaking, and he told me about his work with MMA fighters. And he'd gotten some MMA fighters healed really fast. And the best example of this, which was so clear, was the number 2 MMA fighter. This is about a decade ago. And he had really messed up his knee. And
that's the way they do it.
It's just a real true mess. And the doctors were saying it's going to take you 9 months before you can practice. And Steven, my business partner, had him fighting in 6 weeks. And he did that by combining what was then, very novel.
6 weeks instead of 9 months.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
We're a wellness device, not a medical device, but you can't argue with what happened, right? And this was not our chamber. This was the technologies that later went into the chamber. So he was using electromagnetics, and he was using light therapy, and he was using oxygen therapy at that time. And he was also working on the use of his mind, him being consciously wrapped around an intention of self-healing, because the mind is a very powerful tool. I always say issues to tissues, right? I can believe myself strong. I can believe myself weak. I can end my life early by believing I've got all these issues and sicknesses. The mind is very, very powerful. The placebo effect has been telling us this forever, right? It's been telling us that we can believe ourselves out of any disease, out of any illness. And so he leveraged all those things. And it was such an amazing transformation. Now, I will say this guy came in 3 times a day, right? He was a professional athlete. He was dedicated. So he came in 3 times a day and did this technology and used his mind. And so we just took that and said, no one's put these things together into a machine. It would be great if it wasn't just for a joint. It was great if it was for the body. And then we added another 50% of different other modalities into this, including molecular hydrogen, vibroacoustic therapy, guidance, and music, and so on. And the combination of all those things, it's magical. It works on everyone and everything. It doesn't matter whether you're 8 or you're 80, or whether you want to perform on a football field, or you want to just be in a better moment a moment later to have a difficult conversation with your spouse. Like, it all fits.
I hope that you will not get offended if I describe your chamber as an oversized panini press. Basically, that you enter and lie down, because as one part of the chamber moves down to conduct the session, it really feels like a panini press to me. But how like for a person that tries it once, like myself, it's really hard to grasp how many different procedures and technologies I am even undergoing at that time. Can you at least like comprehend like what are all the things that go into it?
Absolutely. It's a the nice thing is these are all tested, validated, peer-reviewed sciences. And so in the light frequencies, we picked frequencies that have been tested. And I'll talk about each of these and this all together. In the pulse electromagnetic frequencies, et cetera, we picked things where there was lots of peer-reviewed research, lots of science, lots of products that had worked on those individual technologies, so that we didn't have to worry about whether or not it worked, or it was safe, or these could be combined and without having something positive happen. And so we started with that. We didn't pick anything that was out of the ordinary. And then we also made sure that this was a fun experience, and that it pulled the mind and the body into coherence. And I'll explain why that's important. Simplistically, and I say this simplistically, and you'll understand what I've done here. Simplistically, we're stacking a bunch of things that stack really well together that are really important for everybody. So red and near infrared light therapy, really positive for you. Lots of benefit outcomes. Pulsed electromagnetics, like the pulsed electric field that comes from the earth, but there are many other fields. The molecular hydrogen as an antioxidant. The smallest atom crosses blood-brain barrier on down, so you're breathing that through the cannula straight into the lungs. And then we've got the vibroacoustics. So the vibroacoustics and the music, there are different multi-channeled layers of vibroacoustic information and vibration coming into the body, and also layers inside the music. And so we're doing theta brainwave entrainment to calm you down into that sleep-wake moment where your body's in a better state for healing. We're also creating music that hopefully is uplifting, or because we have different outcomes, it may be something that's allowing you to release something. So there's a psychobehavioral, emotional, and physical impact from the machine by stacking these things together. I like to say there's 3 legs to the chair of the chamber. One is all the stacked bioenergetic sciences, and I'll throw the molecular hydrogen into that, and we'll talk about benefits. The next is connecting mind to body, getting you into that calm state, what we call a state of receivership. You can receive. It is more bioavailable. All that energy and that chemistry that's going into the body. If you're in fight or flight, your body is not in a state of healing, right? You want to be in that kind of sleep/rest, restore place. And that involves changing the chemicals that are going to the head from fight or flight chemicals, right? We don't want the adrenaline, and we don't want the cortisol and those type of things. We want the oxytocin and the serotonin. We'd like to have the mind in a state of calm, meaning I'm not worried about tomorrow. I'm not angry about yesterday. I am present. The idea of meditation and breath work, which we do as a guided part of this. And then setting an intention, like we just talked about, those athletes were doing. They were setting an intention that they were that their joint was healing. They believed it, and they knew it, and they held that disciplined intention throughout the session. So to the extent that we can pull all that together, that creates this supreme state of calm so that you can heal yourself. We don't look at ourselves as a healer. We don't think our technology heals. We know that people heal themselves. What we're doing is kind of getting your head above water. And then the third leg of that chair, besides the stack technologies, the state of receivership, this ultimate calm, is fun. I don't want to do something if I have to just, undergo something difficult every single time I'm doing it. I'd love to be looking forward to it. So once I've done it once, I'm like, that was just fantastic. I was like, I was entertained. I'm now calm. My body is charged up. Something feels better in myself. I feel like I'm going to sleep better. And then next time, it's going to be fun again. And I'm going to be able to do something different. I'll be able to pick a different music and pick a different guide voice so that I'm not doing the same thing over and over again. All that's really important to us.
I have to say that the feeling afterwards is amazing, and I wish I could do that, nearly every day. And as you mentioned, if you do it 3 times a day, then you probably see huge benefits. But could you describe what was the level of learning and studying and testing, various kind of things to put it all together?
So I had the advantage of, Stephen, my business partner, had the science side of this. Yep. And there were some other groups, other folks that had a chief medical officer that also had some science in this. So we were able to leverage their minds. I've been making products for over 30 years. And so this is my 5th company. And so I've had the privilege of working with some amazing design creatives, doing toys, tools, housewares, apparel, equipment, electronics. And so I had all that in my background and my network from that. And so I was able to leverage outside engineers and so on. The fun thing for me was I got to design this, the industrial design, the look of this. I woke up on a Saturday morning and I was able to just draw it. And never do you draw and then what you actually make, it matches, right? It just never happens. There's a cost. The customer wanted something different. The engineering was too difficult. It didn't make sense. Something about it didn't make sense. And the chamber looks exactly like the drawing, this pencil drawing that I drew in 10 minutes, exactly. And so I credit that to all the other people I've ever worked with that have given me a skill set to do something. And the fact that this was the way it was supposed to look, to do all the things that it does. We wanted to make sure that it didn't give you claustrophobia. We wanted to make sure it didn't make joint pain better. So we used NASA's zero gravity angle on the chamber bed. There's lots of things that were informed by that. And then I wanted it to look like a lightning bolt through a block because you're about to get charged up. And then the bed floats, so it's suspended up in the air to signal to your subconscious as you're walking up to the chamber that you're about to take a journey.
And you mentioned that it's designed as a zero gravity angle, which, people can see in the rocket ships, right? That they usually have seats of that angle as well. So at least bringing a little bit of rocket science into something that we can use on Earth.
There you go. Yeah, NASA has spent a long time figuring out the perfect back, hip, and knee bend for whether you're 4'8" or 6'8". It doesn't matter. You're still fit. These bends are these perfect shapes. And then when you vibrate that shape with the body, it makes you feel like you're on a cushion, even though you are on a piece of plastic, essentially. And we needed to do the plastic so we could make it clear and get the light to the bottom of the body, as well as get the electromagnetic coil in exactly 1/8 an inch from the body. So we were kind of restricted that I had to use a hard material, but the vibration in that shape, they're fantastic for comfort.
Do you keep track of how many chambers do you have currently operational out there?
So we have about 50 out right now. We're approaching about 100 in sales. I would say end of the year we'll be at about 200. And things are going well. All the places that because we just started selling only 20 months ago, and so it's been an interesting process of like professional in the U.S. professional football here and professional baseball. For a year, we were embedded with teams. We were testing and doing things, and all of a sudden, the teams are just every couple of weeks, a team is buying a chamber now. So all that upfront effort is playing. We sold one to a baseball team, and then 4 players bought in the same week from the same team.
They bought it for their houses?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. How do they use it for the team? Because I assume that you have a sports team is a big team, and do they like schedule and go there every day, or what's usually their procedure?
They've got their various coaching staff, and then they've got a series of things they're doing. Hot therapies, cold therapies. I'm sure they're doing oxygen pressure therapies, and then they've got the chamber. And so, depending on what the player needs, they'll cycle them through those various things. For us, this is perfect before you go on the field, whether you're practicing or playing a game, and then after for recovery. And so, both of these things are served. Again, we're not a medical device. This may sound like I'm about to make a medical claim, but essentially the tech that's going into this is de-inflaming the cell. So the root of all chronic disease, about 92% of healthcare costs in the United States, is inflammation-based chronic disease. So we put tech together that has been shown to reduce inflammation, and then we put some other parts of the tech increases the cell wall permeability, which means things can get in and out of the cell easier. So you're improving cellular performance. And then the antioxidant hydrogen is coming in and taking out oxidative stress. So for any athlete getting ready to or recovering from, these are really positive things to do at the cellular level. And then if you're in a machine that's doing that, and you can calm the mind and get them to focus on the intention of healing their own injury, for instance, if it's after, or supercharging before going out on the field, they can hold an intention that the chamber is going to prepare them to go kick ass on the playing field or the court. All these things have lots of research and really powerful results.
Are there any comparables in the market that would be doing something similar that you do, basically trying to stack up different things?
There's nothing that's combined even 2/3 of what we're doing, but there are really good products out there. We don't really have a competitive mindset at Ammortal. We look at things, everything is collaborative. So there are some really good light beds out there that could do a good job with that. We're friends with the CEOs, and there are some really good pulsed electromagnetic systems that are out there, et cetera, down the line. No one has pulled these things together. I always tell these guys that, if they're looking at doing things, you could add this and it would be even better, because again, the market, in my mind, we're at 0.00001% of the size of the market. There's plenty of room for any venture-backed company to make a lot of money. I think we should be supporting each other and trying to make the industry as well as our client. I think we'll be more successful collectively.
Do you collaborate with some of them to improve the individual parts of your product?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
If you collaborate with some of them to improve the individual parts of your product.
Absolutely. So I have, right now, I've got 8 different companies that are creating different technologies, nothing that we've talked about, that I'm evaluating for future inclusion in the chamber. And they are, the scientists and the researchers that have been working for decades, making some incredible thing that's not necessarily out on the market or is not widely used. And so the nice thing about the Ammortal Chamber is I can talk to almost anyone and see a potential path where their tech and science can be brought in somehow. And so it's really about picking and choosing what's ready, what's the most beneficial thing to the customer. And then we're always looking for partners. Sometimes it takes me a bit of time. Sometimes that happens within a few minutes on a phone call, but I need to know that they love their customer. If they're here because they have an opportunity just to make money, I don't have an interest in partnering with them. If they love their customer, we will have a great relationship, because we will always do the right thing. We will never oversell. We will never underdeliver. We will always make sure that what we are doing next and with each other or with others is the right thing to do.
Maybe that brings me to my next question, and I would love to understand and dig a little bit into what is, in your opinion, the long-term vision of the product. How would you like to see it evolving, and what is the number one thing that you would like to solve?
Interesting. Long term, this is, and there's a lot in this answer, but it would be to impact a billion people. Now that may sound like a very large number because it is.
Well, we all better go through the chamber, and there's no none of the goals are too high. I think that if you want to aim big, you aim big.
Yeah, it isn't that all billion people have to go through the chamber. We'll be making other products, but it's that what we're doing and how we are collaborating and influencing, we're being influenced by the industry, and we're moving an industry that can quickly, within years, impact a billion people. I think that's right around the corner. And so that's why our mission is not just what we're doing, but it would be making sure that others that are doing good things also, we're supporting them as well. And so in that mission, it would be to get people to recognize that they heal themselves, and to give technologies, support technologies, combine technologies that make it really easy for them to, number one, understand, embrace, and start to do that, to take control of their own health, but also to provide things that make it easy. And that's where, the chamber is very easy. It's essentially taking nature. If you go to, let me take a step back. If you go to an indigenous tribe on any continent at any time right now, there's no cancer, there's no chronic diseases, right? They typically have a long life unless they get killed by a bacteria or a lion or something like this, right? Or a weapon or a wound from a neighboring tribe. But they don't get sick from how they live. They eat, they move, they sleep, they do all these things in a kind of with hundreds, thousands of years worth of tribal understanding and harmony within them. And so they don't need a chamber, right? We're the ones who need the chamber. It's the modern world. It's the modern world. We disconnect from the sun because we live a long time and we worry about cancer. We disconnect from the earth by wearing rubber shoes. We disconnect from nature and we're inside looking at screens and so on, all that. So the chamber is a 25-minute way to essentially pull nature back into the body in an enjoyable experience. Have you heard of the term forest bathing?
I have not, but I assume that it's basically people enjoying the energy of spending time in the forest.
Yeah, of nature. It's a Japanese term, so I'm using an English translation of it, but they call it forest bathing. It's the same thing as walking in the woods, right? It's essentially communing and connecting with nature at whatever location or wherever you are. That idea of bathing in the sounds, the vibrancy, the smell, the whatever. Lots of studies, it changes your body. It changes you, puts you into a calm state. It gets you out of those fight or flight. It allows those healing mechanisms to work. So it's one of the things that with vibration, music, spoken word, a beautiful female voice singing, things like this, birds, water sounds, these things, they have an immediate impact on the body, along with all the other energy. And so by putting that back into the chamber, it's also like taking a walk in the woods. I would recommend going in the woods as well, but
so in a nutshell, you basically stick up a lot of technologies for us to experience the same or better that we probably would get if we spend more time in nature. But we today live in very cosmopolitan cities full of concrete.
Yes.
So that's our way to address that.
Yeah, and from a straight product standpoint, to go back to your question, I'll give you a better answer to that, and that is, are you familiar with the term medbed?
No.
Okay, it's if you look up medbed, it's a term that's been around for at least decades. I know of indigenous tribes that would jive with this word. There's a belief that there is I'm going to use the word bed. There's a bed that you can lay in, and it analyzes anything that's wrong with the body and automatically corrects it. And it does so. Most of these predictions are with energetics, right? So frequencies, vibration, energy. Ultimately, our body is nothing but energy. We see a physical form here, but the only reason why this has a physical touch and I can push against this finger or against my desk is because there's push-pull forces, right? It's not because there's actually anything solid here. It's pretty much, I should be able to take my hand, go straight through my hand if there wasn't push-pull forces. The reason why we see it is the reflection of light. And so if I take away the notion that this is solid, and I recognize that this is all just energy, everything is, then in theory, there's a way to read this energy. We know we can do this in some ways. I can read whether my heart or my liver or my whatever is functioning properly. It is giving off signals that it is either in repair, disrepair, or functioning well or not functioning well. So over time, I believe we will read these signatures. There are many people that believe this, and there are many people that I hope are trying to do this. And we will be able to then send the countering frequencies and signals back into the body. So we won't need drugs. We won't need surgery. It'll be very fast. It'll be regular. Maybe you'll even lay in your bed at home, right? And this will happen. So I'm not claiming that we are going to make a bed, but we're just going to keep pushing in the direction of bioenergetic assessment and repair and things like that. And we're just going to keep playing with every new amazing science that comes together. And we're just going to keep putting these things together. And in our wish list, we look at that and say, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be fun if Ammortal and maybe 100 other companies all figure this out over time, and this all gets a lot easier? So ultimately, we are moving in the direction of fully personalized sessions that do amazing things.
There are any trends, I think, these days, longevity and AI, at least from my perspective, are the trends that are getting a lot of attention, a lot of traction, and they also oftentimes are combined together, which I think makes it even more powerful. How do you look at other things likely happening outside of bed that we have at our disposal today to improve our health, extend the lifespan, and improve the quality of our lives after all?
Well, it's interesting. AI will be good and bad, right? On the good side, I mean, it's gonna do both, right? Because it's an enabling tool, but it is amazing, right? It's amazing, and we barely understand what's even going to be happening a year from now, let alone 5 years from now. So AI will play a huge part inside of the chamber. In fact, all of the technologies that are moving forward play an enormous part. It'll impact the chamber soon. So each of these new areas that are expanding very quickly, additive manufacturing, and the ability to stack what we're doing with really interesting things happening with stem cells and other chemistry-based things that are happening. So a lot of that is kind of coming together all at a really beautiful moment. And so, all of this is, if you sat back and said, what would I be doing if I wasn't living in a modern world, right? I would have really good body movement. I would be probably eating healthy food. I would be having, I like the word tribe, but just the idea of, I have a group of intimates, of people that are very close to me. I would use the word love with, that is more than just my family, right? And we depend on each other. And that is the basis of all of humanity for most of the time that humanity has been on this planet, and we've lost a lot of that. And so if we add those types of thinking back into what we're doing, I think everything shifts. So two answers there. One is I think we're going to go back. I think we're going to go backwards a little bit, because we know that this is happening. I think we're going to go into times where ancient wisdom and some older traditions on how things should be done are going to come back. And we're also going to lean into some hardcore unknown science with AI. Just imagine AI grabbing thousands of bits of data off of a person while they're in the chamber or before or after, and then designing fully customized sessions exactly to what that person needs at that moment, based on how they are thinking, feeling, and physically operating.
That's pretty much where I wanted to head with the discussion. I'm all about ancient wisdom, especially when combined with cutting-edge technology, which is, I think, after all, the world that I thrive in. And I know, I think that in a discussion with you, I can open up maybe a little bit controversial topic, but you talked about frequencies, and you talked about basically the individual organs of human body that might radiate different frequencies based on their feel. And I just realized that I used to go to Chinese medicine practitioner, and basically what they do is that by them like touching you with 2 fingers, assessing your heart rate, they are able to tell you how your liver is doing, how your kidneys are doing, etc., and a bunch of other things. And I strongly believe, and it's my personal opinion, I know that the alternative ways of medicine, you know, are very hard to back by research. But at the same time, I do believe that these people know something or have some special abilities that we might be able, after all, to replicate with some of the technologies like Ammortal Chamber.
You know, it's interesting. We employ obviously a lot of hardcore traditional science. I call it science in 3D, right? I also believe very much in, and again, this is not to push truths, but just to share belief system here. The chamber wouldn't exist without the following for me. And that is, I believe, pick and choose your word, but I believe in the aspect of quantum entanglement. I believe that there is a master consciousness that we are all a part of. And it doesn't matter what religious or philosophical or anti-religious view you have. I believe there is something more connective in this. And I believe that quantum math, as imperfect as it is, and we'll hopefully come up with some better stuff, is a language describing the same thing. And then spiritual language is describing the same thing. It's one of the reasons why one of the people that worked with Einstein and captured quantum mathematics, David Bohm, was super tight friends with the Dalai Lama. They agreed on everything. They didn't get there the same way. Then they used different language. The Dalai Lama used the Tibetan spiritual language, and David Bohm would use the language of quantum mathematics. But most quantum mathematicians, I believe, they're like doing the math, and then they're like, oh, there's something. You know, the quantum model says there is something else going on, right? And so they either embrace like a more spiritual aspect of their mathematics, or they reject it. I say a lot of them are rejecting it because they don't want to have the industry tell them, you know, that they're a fool or make fun of them. But those that embrace it, I believe, are finding an accurate model. If there is a theory of everything, it involves the mathematics we've been playing with and consciousness. And so, and I believe that these fields are easily perceptible by humans that will allow that to happen. But the modern world takes the right half of the brain, the intuitive part that I believe is tapped into these things, and tells it that you are not worthy, you are not legitimate, you are not real, do not look at this. We tell our children not to do this. We only tell our children, I feel like I'm speaking to someone that already knows everything I'm saying. And we say, logic and the right side of the brain, or excuse me, the left side of the brain is the only thing that matters. And I think they're not recognizing that the left side of the brain, the logical, rational side of the brain, has 5 data inputs, right? It's got the senses. That's it. The right side of the brain has an infinite set of sensors, and it's actually sensing the energy and the other frequencies and the stuff that's going on, should we allow ourselves to develop that skill. Chinese medicine and many other ancient medical practices have known this for a long time. And I believe that thousands of years ago, we all were encouraged to explore and develop these skills. And those skills have been dropped. I believe they're coming back. And so we embrace all of that. I look at all of it. Instead of sitting here trying to disprove or disbelieve things, we need to just sit here and look at it. Does it work? Do we see when we use it that there's an outcome? Doesn't matter if I understand what's happening. Let's say I do A and C is happening, and C is really good, but I don't know what B is, right? Let's say that goes into some quantum field someplace, and then it comes back. just because I don't know what it is doesn't mean it doesn't work. And so we're going to look at all of it.
How do you work with some of the skeptics of your product? Do you try to convince them, or do you just basically try to attract the people that trust in your good intentions and in the product bringing them the benefits?
It's we don't have too many people that don't think there's something here. I'll give you an example. I've had a couple of people that consider themselves the person that's the evaluator of science for a company or something. And so, and they're typically very bright people with a tremendous set of skills. If they are only looking at 3D technologies, right? They're like, I won't talk to them about the quantum space, right? And our chamber right now doesn't need me to talk to them about anything that you would consider esoteric or a little bit woo, right? Because everything that's in the chamber.
I just wanted to drop a note that we can totally talk about that.
We can. And so with those guys, they started, Coke, some of your research and some of your, I'm like, I'm happy to. Would you please get in the chamber and use it? And they're like, well, I really want to see the research. I'm like, well, I would really love it if you would go into the chamber. If they go into the chamber, 9 out of 10 of them come out and go, okay, I get it. I get it. Now show me your research papers. So it doesn't become very difficult. And again, we're using light and electromagnetics and vibration and things that have lots of studies. And so there's a lot of data, white papers to point to.
And that one person that walks out and is not convinced, do you feel like they are just so stubborn that they would basically try to disprove anything?
Well, you know, I'm not in their head. I'm not sure, but I'll yeah, I mean, you know, just like probably me in other areas of my life, right? I have a stubborn belief on something, and even when the facts are the opposite, I may not change. I'd like to think that I don't do that a lot. But we all probably do that. So but the number of people that we've encountered that are like that is maybe 5 or 6, like out of 10,000. So it's not a lot. Most of them they know that light, they know that vibration, they know the hydrogen, and so they're like, okay, I understand how these stack, and so they eventually get there.
But I think now talking to you and understanding that there's a lot more behind it, and that actually the thinking is like way deeper long term than what the product does today, that I think makes me hooked even more.
Yeah, it's exciting for me. Like the thing that I love being CEO of this business. I love playing with my team, our customers, and so on. It's a lot of fun. The most fun, the pinnacle of fun in my day is when I'm creating anything. And so to get to spend time on what's next is a treat. I'm very lucky to be in a position to be able to do that.
After all, it's a very expensive device, north of $100,000. Maybe closer to 2. You can clarify if you want to, but
yeah, it's 159.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle. And you mentioned that you started with teams, large organizations, wealthy individuals. But what is your thinking to make it more accessible and maybe have a way how the regular consumer can, the regular wellness consumer can use the product? Because what popped in my head right away is like, I want these in the airports.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We keep talking about that. Someone wanted to open up a place for jet lagged people, especially in those airports around the world that are the typical hub where lots of flights are coming in and out. Yeah, this would be an amazing device. In fact, our first install was into the home of someone that owns an airline. And that's what he does with it. He uses it to counteract jet lag and get him going. And so it's I don't know, how about this? The technologies that we're using, light and electromagnetics and so on, some of them have significant power requirements. The components to make it happen right now are significantly expensive. And so the price point on the chamber right now is because it has to be at this moment. But everything that we're doing is constantly trying to figure out, well, if we started exploring down this path and we started buying many of this thing that right now people buy in ones and twos, that makes it very expensive, we can start to help that industry get these price points down. And there's new technologies all the time. So like I'll say, like an LED light that makes red light. Over the last decade, there's been substantial, significant improvement in what's going on there from a cost standpoint, from a capability standpoint. So some of this is just costs coming down. Some of this is letting that AI that we talked about earlier tell us what is the most impactful combination of things, right? Just because I'm adding something in right now that there's lots of studies that says it's good, we may learn through big data analysis that, yeah, that's good for some handful of people. But if I took that out, it takes a lot of cost out. And then I could combine these three things, which are much less expensive. And then here, new product, right, at a lower price point. So we're building, our chambers have, there's a lot of future proofing going on with our chambers. So we build in sensors and input output areas and things like that we don't even know what we're using it for. We just know we're putting it in there because we need 100 different ways to gather data. What that's going to be in the future, we don't know, but if we're making the systems now so that we can keep the same platform across all the various versions of things that we're doing, again, reducing price. So if you think of this like, eventually this should be everywhere, and you should be able to, with a monthly payment over a few years, put something like this in your home in some number of years.
I understand that long-term plan is decreasing the cost, but I don't want to be questioning whether it's expensive or not. I don't think that, there's a reason for it. At the same time, there's probably a way to price it per session, right? And share it with many. Is there an appetite from your side, from the business standpoint, to create a chain of pop-ups, or are you leaving this opportunity for someone else to pick up and just leverage your product and build that out?
We're doing a couple of different things here. So one, we are not looking to create like a franchisable model or something or doing that. There are a lot of really smart people that are our partner clients, and they're doing some incredible models right now. And so we're focused on supporting them. And then a few of those will create very special relationships where we may launch data technologies or do special things. And so or launch the investigation into stacking of certain protocols. The great thing about our chamber is if you're a doctor that does stem cells or you do aesthetic work or whatever, there are protocol stacks that the chamber accelerates what they already know really well. They already know that, if they're going to do surgery, one of the most amazing things would be to use the chamber. If they're going to do stem cell therapies, or they're going to do any number of different things, even just an IV or methylene blue or all these different things, that stuff should be more bioavailable if you're using the chamber before or after. And so the ability to stack this with other things, that in and of itself is a new product that is something that they can buy the chamber and then have 1,000 people use it at a much lower cost and get the benefit of making the other thing that they used to do, the IV or the stem cell, that much more beneficial to the body. And so we'll be looking at a lot of kind of partner client groups to do that. There are people that are evaluating things like having mobile units. We have an Airstream that we have our chamber in that we're going to be doing more of those. And there are people that are looking at doing that and bringing it to events or games or whatever. There are people that are looking at opening up a clinic that's just these with a flexible room where you can have 10 of these chambers with a key code. You become a member. You can come there any time of day. There's a little app to sign up and grab a time, 24-hour access. And every Friday, a stem cell doctor comes in. And if you want to do that stack, you sign up and pay a little extra, or an IV or whatever. And so there's this kind of multi-purpose flex room and chambers because the combination's amazing.
And considering the high investment that you need to make into acquiring the product for the first time, in your effort to keep on improving basically the product going forward, you mentioned that you try to include a lot of different sensors, inputs and outputs. So there's actually a lot of options of what you can do with it. But you also keep in mind like potentially retrofitting the old chambers and keeping it in mind so that, this is not something like, Apple can release a new iPhone every year and people will go buy it. You can go and buy a new fitness tracker every other year. It's still quite okay, though I don't think it's the best for the environment, but I think that's the current trend, right? But you probably don't want to be buying a new chamber every couple of years.
We call our clients family. How would you treat family, right? If you came out with something new, you'd go to them and say, hey, I'm going to give you a path, right, to that next thing, right? And then, because it is an expensive product, the product that they have can be repurposed down into a lower price point for a different strata, if you will. And so we have a very robust plan for people. I would say that our plan would have every customer being delighted that they already purchased one with the opportunity they have to upgrade or not. And we also do things where we're going to be doing later this year free upgrades to all of our current clients. They don't even know this yet. And so we're going to be
now they know.
Now I know. We're going to be doing some free things just because that's what you would do for family. And so we're going to make sure that they are happy. I would rather, but one of the best things that we could be described as in the industry is the group that cares the most about their client. I'll let the sales and the rest of the stuff, it'll take care of itself. If everyone feels like they're being held, they're being treated fairly, right? If you with the ability to go do different things, you get some free stuff every once in a while, that creates a great relationship.
It's awesome that you think about it that way, keeping them as part of the family. You mentioned that you would like to talk a little bit about the benefits, and what I would love to hear is if you have some interesting stories from people using the product and what has allowed them to do.
Yeah. One of my business partners, he talks about this all the time, but I won't mention names. And he has someone in his family who is having anxiety issues. And again, these are all anecdotal, by the way. And we are doing tests. We're doing clinical studies on mental performance, physical performance, longevity biomarkers, and nervous system performance. And that's all happening this year. So everything I'm about to say is anecdotal, but we hear this hundreds of times, these things. And so these are just some examples of those. There's a person that was using medication and to deal with anxiety and ADHD and some other things, and was able to go off that medication and would go into the chamber with scattered, thoughts and all types of anxiety, couldn't prioritize what to do, and would come out. And in his words, he came out and he's like, yeah, when I'm in the chamber, everything that I am thinking about gets prioritized into a list, and I walk out and I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And so obviously, we're not doing that for this person, right? They're doing that for themselves, but the chamber is getting their head above water. It's calming the systems down, charging things up, getting the cells to work better. And at the end of that process, then they afford themselves the opportunity to clear their head and calm down. We've seen 10-year-old plus pain in a joint, a shoulder, a back, be gone, and then be called a week later and say it's still gone. We've had, professional athletes that have come to us after being on the field for a game where they just pitched their fastest balls, or they had an incredible batting average or whatever, and they believe it is this every single time. We had a pitcher on the mound from the field, professional, and we're in the stands, and he got us our seats, and he knows we're there, and he's just using the chamber. He'd used it 3 days in a row, and he pitched a no-hitter, and he's walking off the field, off the mound, and he points at us and goes like this for the all-body chamber that he'd just been in, and goes like this, walked off the field. So a lot of hundreds and hundreds of things that we can't claim because it's anecdotal that we're going to go study. We had 6 people that had an average of a 200% synaptic speed increase in their brain with just a subset of the technologies that we put together. It lasted for 14 days. Yeah, and so again, we can't claim that, but these things just keep happening and happening. And the diversity of positive outcome is mind-boggling. It's difficult for us to pick what to study first. So we're doing kind of some general studies in here. And then as we start to see things, and the AI that will come in eventually will start to give us correlative data for specific types of things that people are entering the chamber with, specific outcomes they're looking for, and we'll start to realize specifically what's happening and how to maximize that benefit.
These anecdotal stories that you hear from people using your product, are they happening after certain like volume of sessions? Or because I assume like if you do one session and that's it, it's not gonna be the most impactful thing. So is there like a suggested dose or something like that?
We're going to get better numbers around this through our studies, but our belief is well, we know that a single session can change how you feel. Pretty much 99% of people, they feel different. Like I
in
feel
the moment,
better.
It was amazing. I
Right.
definitely agree with that.
Yeah, yeah, and then sometimes that lasts for some people for an hour to a couple of days, right? But there's something significant there. For people that are doing this regularly, that feeling tends to become more consistent. If you did this 3 times in a week, something like that, we find a lot of people, sometimes this happens with one session, but we find people that feel like something is performing better. It could be sleep or many things performing better. Like that athlete on the field, he had done it 3 times and he just felt completely different. His sleep was totally different. And then if you're doing this regularly, like, 2-3 times a week, after a month, you should start to look better. Because some of this technology it makes you look better. It gets more collagen into the skin and things like that. So this kind of single session, feel better, a few sessions in a week, perform better, sessions over time, you're going to get look, feel, and perform better.
I love it. Would you mind telling me a little bit about what your wellness routine looks like? Now we got the suggested average dose, but what are all the tips and tricks, tools that you basically leverage on yourself? Of course, like I'm interested in Ammortal, but also a lot of other things that you might have incorporated in your routine.
Sure. I'll start with the mind because it actually is in control of the body. So that would be meditation. It would be taking as many present moments as I can during the day and stopping the noisy roommate of the mind. I'd say would be the number one most important thing. On the physical side, food, sleep, etc. So I eat essentially. In the U.S., I can only get as good as organic unless I can find good local organic things, and I know the person that's making it. But I'm eating, I eat all types of different foods, but all as clean as I possibly can, as different and varied. Lots of vegetables. All the meats are going to be grass-fed, grass-finished to the extent that's possible. Or I joke and say, if the animal was raised and it was sung to, that's the animal that I want to eat. The low-stress life that was fed the right things. Lots of vegetables. We cook almost all of our meals so that we're in control of the oils and no natural flavors and that type of stuff. And then workout routine, bunch of different things. So I'm a month away, or excuse me, this year I turned 60, and so at 60, your body begins to change and so on. And so I do strength training and the weight lifting, HIIT activities, stretching, that type of stuff. I do hot and cold therapy, so contrast therapy. I've got a sauna and a cold plunge. And I try to only consume media, whether it be television or podcasts or books, that is something that is positive for me. and rather than negative. Even though I have an enjoyment in watching violence, or if you will, in an action film or something, and I'll occasionally do that, I'll try to stick more with things that are going to create positive dream states, also impacting the body. And then I think importantly, who I hang out with. And so I've had the good fortune over my life. I have wonderful folks. But I tend to spend my time now talking and hanging with people that want to explore how they can be a better human being, a more caring, more I don't know, connected, in a kind of from a Buddhist philosophy, someone that is here for the right reasons. And also wants to explore, because I believe, and again, I'm not pushing any truths here, so if this doesn't land, please toss it. But I believe this is just a big game. This is a big virtual reality, not created by humans, but created by a master consciousness that is a play space for us to learn. It's a play space for us to interact. And the reason why there are brilliant people that have written on this far better than I'm going to articulate, but love, ultimately, as most religions would tell you, the most important thing, unconditional love, is actually, from a physics standpoint, the reduction of emotional entropy. And I believe that this consciousness experiment is the reduction of entropy, scattered, crazy energy. And that when we realize that, we're in this big game, and we can decide to be stuck in the game like the Matrix, right? And not be aware of what's going on, and think that the game here is about scrabbling to get stuff, to find a mate, to compete against other people to get more stuff and more money. Or we can recognize that we're here for far more important things. And inside of that space, then you begin to take care of your body, eat the right things, have a good movement program. You begin to take care of your mind, consume things that are healthy for you, and hang out with people that help you explore your consciousness. And so it all kind of feeds itself. I just find it far more joyful. I didn't do this first 40 some years of my life. Didn't do this. And so it's only in the last 10 plus years that I have been fully down this rabbit hole. If you talk to me when I was 45, everything was scientific method. Don't bring any woo anything to me. I ate well and I worked out and stuff like that. But the other side of what's actually going on here, I was not participating in. As soon as I allowed it, I say I stopped disbelieving and stopped disproving. I just allowed it to be. Everything in life became more joyful, a lot more fun. And the people that I wanted to connect with magnetically, we found each other very easily.
Was there an important event that triggered that, or you just came to it over time, basically?
It was a convergence of things, but there was a single moment where I added something new, and that was a psychedelic experience with a wonderful guide, and with an incredible group of people, doctors and so on. So it was in a setting. It wasn't for fun. It was for purpose.
Was that ayahuasca or something else?
It was psilocybin.
Oh.
Psilocybin. There were some other light medicines involved, but mostly psilocybin.
Got it.
And in that, I had a kind of a watershed. I called it the trimming of the hedges. Just and a bunch of things that I had been interested in. I've been interested in quantum mechanics. I did a TED talk 10 years before that on I made a mathematical equation for evil. And people were like, why are you spending your time doing that? And I said, I don't know. I'm fascinated by these concepts of spirit and science coming together. And then when I did that journey and had that psilocybin experience, all those questions were answered for me like this. All of these things that I had been interested in my life came together in a way that was serving and a lot more fun.
It resonates with me hugely, and thank you so much for sharing that. Is there any last piece of wisdom that you would like to share with others?
I don't know. I have a shirt that I often wear. It's from another wonderful person in this country. It just says, pause, breathe, reflect. And there are lots of phrases like this, but it's just a simple thing like, in almost every moment, whether you are upset, angry, bored, whatever, that simple, just stop, breathe. And the reflection isn't to reflect on what you were just thinking about. It's the opposite. It's reflect on what is far more important, or the hidden lesson inside of that thing, because there are hidden smiles all around us all the time, even when we're feeling terrible. And when you do that pause, breathe, reflect process, you tend to see the smiles.
Pause, breathe, reflect. It is. I think it's a beautiful finish to our chat. Brian, I wanted to thank you so much. I wish you all the best with Ammortal and otherwise. And thank you once again for hopping on the show.
I really appreciate being here. It was a pleasure. You're a pleasure. I appreciated the great questions, and thank you, brother.